First, we'll open Autodesk Sketchbook. And if you want to pull up a previous picture, you're going to click on the upper left icon, the rectangle with the 3 little lines and the 3 little dots, and it will give you this menu, and click on Gallery. I don't really need this current sketch, so I'm just going to discard it. And if there's one that you've been working on that you want to continue working on, like I'd like to finish this one that says Peace, I'm going to open it. If there's not one that you want to continue working on, then you can just create a new document. So if I wanted to do that, I would go back to Gallery, and instead of clicking one that's already here, I would click the little plus sign in the bottom middle of the screen. And that will give me a new sketch, and I can create that way. The first thing I always like to do is just move my little toolbar out of the way so that I can add a few layers, and I can remind myself to be selecting the layer that I want to be working in. So you can see when I touch a layer, it turns blue. It has like that blue outline around it, and that way I know what layer I'm currently drawing inside of. So I'm going to start with the bottom layer. And a neat thing about Autodesk Sketchbook that's different from our first part of this project on paper is that the background doesn't have to be white. It can be any color you want it to be. So I'm going to think actually about the background first. I'm going to think about my whole project in layers. And I'm going to go to my little color wheel here and take a look and see if anything inspires me here. I think maybe I want something in like that blue-green family, maybe here, but I want it a little darker, so I'm going to move. See how that circle moves as I touch different parts of the square in the middle until I find the color that I want. Also, right now the blender tool is selected. The blender doesn't actually use any color, so we've got to make sure that we're using a tool that will actually make our paper color. So I'm going to scroll down to a tool that I know I like. I think it's this one. I like the texture of this one, and let's make sure it's the right size. So 47, let's try it. Each tool's a little different. And you know, certain tools, when you use them, if you keep going over the same spot, that color is going to get darker and darker. You can use that to actually create different values of the same color. You can shrink your paper down using 2 fingers and resizing it, and that way you can make sure your color goes all the way to the edges. So now that's going to be the background for my picture, but I don't want it to distract me when I'm working in the other layers. So I'm actually going to hit the little eyeball, and that will just hide it for now. That way it doesn't distract me. And I'm going to click the layer above. And this is where I'm going to start to think about the layers of the colors of the word that I want to use this time. And for that, I'm going to import my image from my photo album. So I took a picture of this kind that I want to use, and I'm just going to zoom in a little bit because I just want that one kind, and I think that's probably a good size. And I think I do want it to just go straight across. So I'm going to click Done, and I'm going to drag that layer by holding it and moving it, and then I'm going to work in the layer above it, because I'm just going to use this layer that's highlighted in blue right now, where the kind picture is, as a reference to trace on top of. But I want to be tracing it in a different layer so that I can erase that picture later, because I don't want it to be part of my final art. I'm going to choose a different tool for this. So I'm going to go back into the library. And I want to pick something that's going to stand out against that background color. So I'm thinking something in like the red, orange family. But remember, I want to start lighter and work my way light to dark again. Maybe I want to start there and then maybe work my way with darker colors. I think that will look nice. So now that I've got a plan in my head, I'm going to select that color. And now I'm going to come into here and I'm going to trace right on top of this picture that I imported. And if I need to zoom in a little bit to control a little bit better, I can. Sometimes it's hard to draw. I don't have my stylus tool here today. If you have a stylus tool, it makes it a little easier to draw. I'm just drawing with my finger, so it makes it a little bit trickier, but we can still do it. I'm just tracing right on top. Whenever you want to move your picture, make sure you do it with 2 fingers. And if you forget to do it with 2 fingers and you try to move it with just 1 finger, you're going to swipe through. And if that happens, you can use this little arrow and it just takes away the last mark that you made. Once you finish tracing your first word, if you want to resize it, you can click the tool at the top with the little arrows pointing each direction. And that will give you this screen, and you can use 2 fingers to move it and turn it and resize it until you like the placement and the size. And then once you like the size and placement of it, you just hit done and it will take you back to your regular screen. Once you're finished tracing your word one time, you can go into that layer and click copy, and it will create a second version of it. And then you can paste it into a new layer and then move it to whatever place you want on your paper. And once it's in the place and it's the size you want, then just hit done again. Now you can watch me select the layer with the photo that I added to trace and just throw it away at the top of that layer area. And the plus sign will turn into a little garbage can. You can just throw that layer away since we're done using it. Now you can watch as I go into a layer, copy it, create a new layer, and paste it. And I can keep doing this and repeating the same process until I have enough of that first word in that first color. And your final step for part 1 is just learning to merge the layers once you have your first color finished, your first layer of colors finished for your word. So you can see as I open up each layer, I select the merge tool. I just have to make sure that I'm in the layer above the layer that I want it to merge with. And then I click merge and it merges that picture with the one below it. Now you can see that all 4 of my lightest color of kind are all on one layer together.